Hello, welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. Today we're going to talk about stress, and we're going to talk about finding peace in the midst of the stress and the uncertainty and everything that's going on in this world right now. Dr. Dravon James is an inspirational speaker. She is a radio host and author of the book Freedom Is Your Birthright, which she sent me a copy of it, and it is excellent. It's short, it's quick, and it's powerful. She is the founder of Everyday Peace, which is a platform for her to help and inspire others to build the life of their dreams. She's also a practicing pharmacist. So right now, it's a really busy time for her. So I just am so appreciative that she is taking some time out to be here with us today. And she is speaking, when we're talking about finding peace in the midst of uncertainty, she is living this every single day because she's on the front lines. And so I so appreciate her perspective here. So Dr. Dravon, welcome to Leaders Transformation.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So let's talk about this idea of stress. You know, a lot of times people will talk and they say, you know, you got to avoid stress. Like you don't want stress. Stress is a bad thing. Talk to us about what we should be doing with stress. What's the best way to approach it?
So, I look at stress as this way, and it's interesting because I haven't met another person to really view it this way, but I think of stress as a resource, right? Because why? It's plenty of it. And one of the...
That is true, especially now.
Yeah, right now. But even without the coronavirus, COVID-19, there's always, our mind, our ego always finds something to be in a state of stress about. Something's going on. Good stress, bad stress, there's stress all the way around. And because I believe with Everyday Peace that one of the founding principles for me for Everyday Peace is that learning to use everything that shows up in our life, the good, the bad, and the in-between, use it all to create our next level of greatness. So to consciously create that, we realize that we're going to have stress, trying to live a stress-free life. And I got to tell you, I've been a practicing pharmacist for 30 years. And I can remember when I used to do patient care, direct patient care. I'm more in administration now, but I used to do direct patient care. I would sit down to counsel patients and there'd be a medication for anxiety. And they would get more tense when you say, now avoid stress. Right? That would just make you so stressful. So we have to know that stress is part of the journey. It's part of the journey. So let's look at it as a resource and say, okay, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to use this energy? Because it's all just energy. It shows up all bundled up and twisted up as stress. So maybe I got to unpack it a little bit, right? Which means I got to spend some time with self and understand like what's causing this. This is energy. I'm going to use it, but what's causing it, I got to unpack it. Because honestly, trying to avoid stress means we're going to focus on it more. Whatever we focus on, universal law, we're going to draw more of that into our life. So not so much trying to avoid it. And that doesn't mean to go out and try to look for more things to be stressed about. We want to live smart, right? We want to do the things that put us in position to have balance in our life. But we all go in and out of balance all the time. It's dynamic. We're cycling.
So I'm glad you said that about not trying to avoid stress and to what to do with it, because when you look at it's just interesting when you say it's a resource. It's everything in our life is given to us, I believe, as a gift. Sometimes it looks like it's a curse, but it's actually a gift if we look to find the gift in it. Right. And so even in the stress, even in right now, like where the coronavirus, COVID-19 is rampant and we have this pandemic going on out there and there's so much focus on how many people have died. I actually saw somebody point out and said, and let me tell you how many people have actually survived it. Yay, let's put that statistic up there so we can balance out this feed of news information. And so you can make a quality decision or choice about how you feel, by seeing both sides of it.
Glass half empty, glass half full.
Yes.
However you want to look at it, we're experiencing the glass, right? The situation. We would not have chosen the situation in a million years, but here we are in the midst of it, right? And you mentioned my book, Freedom Is Your Birthright, and one of the things I talk about in that, we're all free to have our own perspective of what's going on. Now, we can't deny the facts. 1% of the population that contracts this, 1% of them, well, 1% of the population is contracting it. That whole percentage is not passing away, but it is something that we want to avoid. More, I think the flu is like 0.1%, right? And we get a flu vaccine because that 0.1% can be significant. So we're up to 1%. But even in that, we have a choice to look at the 99% or the 1%. Doesn't mean we're not going to exercise caution and care. And I think that's where the ego gets confused, right? The ego still believes that we are, 7 or 6 years old, and we can't decipher between being scared and doing the safe thing and being okay and still doing the safe thing. The ego believes that if you don't get truly scared about this, then you won't act responsibly. So how about I scare you out of your wits? We're adults. We don't need to be scared out of our wits to look at the facts and say, okay, this is safe behavior. This is unsafe behavior. I choose safe behavior.
So well said. You have an expression that you use when you talk about implementing healing in your life, and I'd love for you to share it and talk about how that applies to what we're going through right now.
Yeah, that expression is, I had to figure out how to get myself together in the carpool line. And what I meant by that is I had to have a process that allowed me to achieve everyday peace in everyday life. I never had one of those lives where I could check out for 14 days and go away to a silence retreat. It always sounded intriguing to me. I'd read those books. I was like, oh yes, one day. But I really realized that my life was happening now. And I literally had to figure out how to achieve everyday peace in the carpool line. At that junction in my life, I had little kids and they bound out of that school into the car. And, I'm sitting there, my tongue half hanging out like, dad, looking for peace. And I really had to have a process that worked for me to achieve peace every day, right then and there, in the midst of my daily life. Now we're talking about coronavirus and, in the midst of this right here, peace is available for us. Yes, some scary things are happening. Yes, we've never lived in these type of times. And yes, we still can experience peace. And I got to tell you, my definition that I use for peace is wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken, totality. So right there, you realize that part of our picture right now, if we had a puzzle, coronavirus is part of the whole puzzle. There's a puzzle piece that's called coronavirus. And to have the whole picture, it's there. It's in this puzzle piece. Can we still achieve peace now? Yeah. It's wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken, totality. Being present in this moment and not being fearful about 2 minutes from here or regretting the 2 minutes that passed. This is the moment that we have. So that's the whole gist of getting yourself together right there in the carpool line.
I love that. Sorry, I was just on mute. Yeah, so often, I don't know about you, but I, at one point in my life, was like, if everything could just, it's like, if you could get all my ducks in the order all in one, all at one time, then life would be good. And I just realized at some point that that's never going to be, it's never going to be that way ever. Despite this, what's going on right now, it's never going to be like that. It's never going to be all perfect. And so I learned to find that, to find that peace in the midst of the storm, to be the calm in the midst of the storm. And there's such freedom in that. Now, how you do this and you teach people how to do this. So what are the steps? Like when you say there's a process to go through, what is that process that we go through?
So glad that you asked that question. And I just want to take a moment and relate to you because I have that personality type that I am a bit task oriented sometimes. And I always felt like the day would come when I'd have it all done. And it just, the stars would line up perfectly and it would just be the day that I could just say, aha. And I realized that day would be the end of my life, right? So I would, go ahead and appreciate this moment right now. And that's really what this is all about. So the first piece of the process is just to stand in appreciation right now, for what you can see, what you can smell, what you can touch, what you can hear, just in this moment, to bring yourself to the now, right? That's the first thing. That don't judge it. I don't care if you, well, we're not sitting in traffic, many of us, because, hey, there's something that's gone right now. We don't have all those traffic jams, right? But even if you're sitting in the same room that you've been sitting in for the past 14 days, wondering what if and what if, in this moment, the fact that you can see, that you can hear this program, or, the feel of the carpet underneath your feet brings you to the now. And that's the first thing that settles down the ego, that gets you to be in this place of peace, that awareness and that appreciation. And then this gratitude, which is be up and above appreciation, this gratitude. And I do, where is my card? Right here. Oh my gosh. I carry this card. I want to show it to you. You probably can't read it, but this is a little index card. I make one every morning. Every morning at 5 o'clock when I wake up, the first 3 things that pop into my head, I write on a card, and I write the top of the active gratitude card and the date of the day that I write that card down there. And that active gratitude card helps to focus me, and it does it for everybody. It's such a simple and easy technique to use, because you write down these first things, and you force yourself to become actively grateful for them. From the soles of your feet, the crown of your head, you get really, really excited about it. So let me just tell you how simple this is. The first thing I wrote here is, I am thankful to be granted the privilege to telework today. Right? I work in a busy hospital center. You can imagine how busy it is right now with the coronavirus and everything. And today I was so backlogged with all of the emails and all that stuff, I worked from home. And that was the first thing I was grateful for, that I'm going to get out through these emails and get this stuff done. So whatever it is that pops in your head, you become actively grateful for it. It changes the entire energy around you. The entire energy. It doesn't take away all your problems. It takes away the way you perceive the problems.
Yes.
Isn't that important?
That's the key. It's not what happens to us. It's how we handle it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then once we move from there, and we have our active gratitude, we've got our awareness in the now, then that's actually starts to decrease our stress level. Then we can move into the state of executing and designing the life of our dreams from a creative space, not from a place of fear, not from a place of need, because need only gathers more things to need, right? But from a place of service, right? Whatever it is that you are providing to the universe today, whatever it is that I am providing from the universe today, it's going to be balanced. I'm going to receive something for the service that I provide, whether it's just a smile, a friendly conversation, just a warm thought, right? So these are processes that guide us into peace, because a lot of our anxiety, a lot of our fear base comes from this place of always being in a position of wanting, of needing. When we think of ourselves as being of service, we're game changing. We are literally game changing.
You talk about words. Words are so powerful. Need, want, try, all of these different words. And then there are words like desire, very different. Want and desire, very different energies towards them. Talk a little bit about the power of our words, and what are some words that maybe even in your own life, as you've had your own life journey, some of the words that maybe you found yourself recognizing that weren't working for you and you decided to change them?
Yeah, we hit on one, which is want. That, and I actually did a whole article many, many years ago before I even started doing this platform, or a platform called Everyday Peace. And the title of that article was that I'm through wanting anything. Right? Because want comes from a place of lack, right? And I realized that, I wanted this and I wanted that. And they were really great things to want, but the energy associated with it really reinforced that I was in a state of lack. So it always left me unfulfilled and wanting more. Words really have so much power. I often wish, I gotta tell you, I wish that we could communicate just through telepathic communication sometime, that the words kind of all get us all messed up a lot of times, because a lot of times we use our own words to curse ourselves. Can you even imagine? Right? I'm so stupid. How could I not have known this? We use and those words, the universe takes us seriously. Subconscious really believes that we know what we're talking about, right? And so you want to be careful that we use our words to empower our lives and not to put ourselves into some sort of like prison with our words. Another word that my kids, if they were up here, they would tell you, I could not tolerate them using the word, I can't, because I used to tell them can't was an acronym for I'm certainly, what was it? I'm certainly not trying or something of that nature. I can't remember it at all now, but I used to tell them that all the time because, oh, Mom, I can't. And I said, you really have to put yourself in a position to say, I'm going to do my best. This is the best I have to offer at this time. A phrase that I absolutely love that covers all so-called mistakes. We all know in consciousness there are no mistakes, but when I know better, I do better. So whatever I did yesterday, if it didn't make the grade, that was based on what I knew yesterday. Whatever the behavior was, allows us our ego to just relax and stop abusing us. It's like, yeah, if I knew better, I would have done better. So just using words to be gentle with ourselves is so very important. Because when we are gentle and kind with ourselves, we push that energy into the universe and we're gentle and kind and forgiving of other people more easily. And we have those boundaries that come up organically, not these forced boundaries that will only reinforce fear. So words are so very important. I cannot express that enough. But the number one word that I do not use in my vocabulary is I want. I desire is nice, right? I desire is nice. It's as though you're expecting it, but you're okay in your current state now. I desire, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my words. My favorite word, if you ask, is peace. I love the word peace because it allows for everything. It allows for everything to show up and for me still to be safe, right?
Yeah. I love that word peace, actually. And what I found the last few years, especially, I was in a place where there was a lot of chaos going around me in my personal life for various reasons. And so what I was seeking peace. And so I was focusing in on peace. And then I realized, okay, I've gotten to this place of peace. And it's like what you said, what you focus on expands. So I got to that place of experiencing a greater peace in my everyday life, and no matter what was happening outside. And then I realized, okay, well, what am I feeling like I'm missing or would like more of in my life now? Joy. And so now my new word is joy, and I'm looking for that, to experience that joy. So I've got peace, but how do we create joy? So
right. Yeah, because peace is sort of like neutrality, isn't it? It's sort of like Switzerland, right? Right? Because peace just keeps you in a zone, right? Where your emotions are in check and you're realizing that you are safe no matter what is occurring externally. You're safe. I think I hear that noise again, but there's nothing there.
Tech issues, but it's all good. It's all good. We're hearing you loud and clear.
So from peace to joy. I love it. From peace to joy sounds like a title of another book.
There you go. Next book. So you talk about in your book, you talk also about freedom, and there's different kinds of freedom. And we've got external freedom, we've got internal freedom. Talk a little bit about that. And right now, there are some freedoms that have been taken away from us. How do we navigate through that?
Yeah, so the book really is focusing what I call internal freedoms, right? But I have to tell, and right now what we're looking at, a lot of our external freedoms have been taken. There's curfews imposed and self-quarantine, and so we're losing a lot of that. And I smile because when I wrote the book, tiny little book that I absolutely poured my heart and soul in to make it very, very easy to read, and my son, who happened to be in middle school at the time, read the book. He goes, nope, I'm not free to do what I want to do. And I said, well, that's the whole point. There are external parameters that are in place right now with our coronavirus, right? There are parameters in place. Hopefully these parameters are going to help to mitigate any unnecessary cases in people's homes. Stay home, stay safe. Doesn't mean you're still not free, right? Because we're free to define what this period means to us, right? For some people, this is this will be the time that their family comes together. You know, I have a child that's in college, and I have a child that's getting ready to go to college. So this time together now, you know, it's coming to an end, and our family is starting to change. So these would be times that will be very, very memorable for people for family reasons. For some people, I know there are people out there who've been working overtime for years. And this time right here is a time to reconnect with yourself, to slow down, maybe read that book that you've always wanted to read. We're free to define what the self-quarantine, what this time period means in our lives. So that freedom always exists internally. Externally, we know we got something going on in the world that's requiring us to practice social distancing. But what will the story be that you tell, right? What will your story be when you talk to people 15, 20 years from today? You tell the story of the 2020 coronavirus. What changed in your life? What was your perspective? So we're free to define what it's going to mean for us in this time period.
So that actually brings up a really good point, because in your book, you talk about you were a pharmacist, you were working a job, you went to this convention and you did a Myers-Briggs assessment, and the lady said, I need to talk to you afterwards. And maybe you can tell that, share that story. God. And really even like what came out of that for you, right? Because I think this is kind of where some people are at.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. And I put that in the book for that reason, for people to really be at peace with who you really are. So I'd gone to pharmacy school, and I was at my first real professional job. And I realized at this first job, and I had two dear friends, we went to pharmacy school together, and they loved it, right? We all worked for the same company, and they just were just excited. And I would go home in the night just crying. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And so, but I went, the company had this convention, I went, and I'd never heard of Myers-Briggs before, but I took the test. And afterwards, she called the lady, the moderator, she called my name, but she said, I'd like to see you afterwards. And I thought, oh, I must have done so well on that, I'm gonna get a prize in front of all these people. And she called me into the hallway and she said, I've never seen a person score the way that you have on this personality test. And I thought, well, what does that mean? She goes, honey, she said, you are misfitted for this. And, you know, and I was so afraid in that moment that she was going to tell my employers that no. And I was like, I had worked so hard. I was moving up, you know, to a managerial position. And she goes, oh, don't worry. I don't work for the company. It's just, I want you to know. In that moment, I actually threw that test in the trash. So nobody would know about it. But it gave me the courage after that conversation with her to really accept me for who I was and not to make my decision about me based on what other people thought was good enough for me. We do that a lot. You know, I was so thankful to have a great education. I was so thankful to have a great job. But if it's not meeting your core needs of who you are, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you're going to do a little bit more digging. So I got the courage actually within that same year to move on and move into a company doing things same profession, but doing things that suited my personality type. And it worked out for me. Just, I think, accepting yourself, really accepting yourself. You are enough in this moment. You know enough in this moment about you to make your next right decision about your life. So very important. You can't wait for some other external source to come along and say, hey, I've been watching you and I got some ideas on how you can improve your life. You have to start watching you. I had to start watching me, and it happened because of the Myers-Briggs test. The universe is always watching over all of us, right?
Right. Well, and I think right now there's a lot of course within transition, right? There's going to be a lot of changes. We're seeing things differently. We're seeing our jobs, our careers, our businesses differently, depending on where they're at. I own a business, but other people have a job and they're working for a company. And so they're seeing different dynamics as companies are navigating through this themselves. And I think there's going to be a lot of, that dissatisfaction, like there's actually a high percentage of people that hate their jobs. It's really sad actually, because they spend so much time there, and it's, I've heard numbers like 65% of people hate their jobs. I've heard up to 80% of people hate their jobs, and whatever the number, it's still, regardless, either way, that's still too high. And so when you think of now, as things are being disrupted, that there's going to be an opportunity to reevaluate and say, what do I desire to have? What kind of life do I want to create? And I know I was talking to somebody who said, wow, I actually really like this time with my family. I actually like working from home and having this kind of productivity because I get more done. I don't have to commute 2 hours a day, and I don't have to. So then it's like, wow, we're going to see this whole shift of, for some people are going to wait and they're going to want to go back to the way it was, which we know it's not going to happen. It's not going to go back ever exactly the way it was. But there's going to go back to like some sort of new normal in that space. But then there's a whole group of other people that are going to be using this opportunity to create something entirely new. So what would you tell them?
Yeah, and that's the beautiful time about this period right here. Change is inevitable.
Yes.
Right? Change is there's always change around us. So use this change to evolve, to say to yourself, what do I like about this? There's something that I'm here for a reason, because not everybody is here during the coronavirus time, but we are here, and we're here by design. So this time in our life is meant to do something, to change something about us. We're not meant to go back to that's one of the things people always mistake when change comes. They're so uncomfortable because they want to go back to the way things were. Well, perhaps change comes just for that reason, to change the way things were. And now we get the opportunity to decide, at the end of this, because there will be an end to this, at the end of this, what do I want to have manifested in my life? How do I want to have evolved as an individual? One of the things I think is going to come out of this is that companies will realize that it is probably more productive to have more people at home. And to have, it's more safe for the environment. There's a lot, all these cars on the road. So some of that I know will change. People will probably do some type of teleworking, something will change as far as the way we perceive work in our country. But there'll be a lot of individual changes that will happen too. I would suspect there will be people who will decide that, I'm probably not going back, not in the way that I was, and maybe not full time, because I've discovered my passion during this time, or I've become to the place in my life where I can no longer be dissatisfied. Right? That's huge. That's a huge, when you realize that there's no space in your life for this amount of dissatisfaction. I remember reading in the Gallup polls that it was like 80% of Americans claimed they did not like their jobs, what they had voluntarily chose as a profession. And that is really sad when you think about most people spend more time at their profession, at their career, at their job than they do at their house. And, they're just away from the house so much, building, till it's sad to realize that you're going to an institution, you're performing a task where it's such a drudgery. You're having to suppress so much of yourself to be there. Wonderful that you're willing to make that commitment, but I bet you if you trusted yourself and you trusted the universe a bit more, it much more would evolve in your life, much more.
Yeah,
and a lot of trust is going to come out of this, trust of self. People are going to see that they are more durable than they were placing all of the power in the external thing. All the power belonged to the job. All the power belonged to somebody else. And when we're at this time, we're self-quarantined, and we're realizing, wow, I'm pretty powerful. I can figure some things out. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what do you think is going to come out of this? We've talked about some of the things, but you mentioned trust is going to come out of it. What else do you think is going to come out of it?
Well, I think trust is going to come out of it. And I think this is a hope. I hope that people will use this opportunity to stop running from themselves. We have this built-in distraction in our life. All of us do. We get to distract by going to jobs, going to the mall, hanging out with friends. And so in this time where it really is, we're asked for safety reasons to isolate. I'm really hoping that people will, get really tired of social media after a while. So you know what, I'm going to cut my social media usage down. I don't know, just 30 minutes a day, and just really sit and become comfortable with themselves, become comfortable with their story. I would love to see that, because so often people just hide from themselves because they're so embarrassed about their past or the decisions that they've made. But I would love for people to fall in love with themselves during this time period. That would be amazing. I think if we see that self-love, that genuine self-love of self right now, we'll see it'll have a rippling effect on so many other things in our life.
Beautiful. Dr. Dravon, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time, and thank you for your dedication, because you're out there on the front lines and putting yourself, what many would say, you're putting yourself at risk. And just even that commitment that you have to go out there. And so I just really appreciate it. And I appreciate you having the courage to share your passion, to have your everyday peace community, to write your book, and to be able to help and give some light, shine some light for some other people who can follow in your footsteps by finding their own freedom and in their own life from the things that they can control, but also recognizing their how they show up in the world and where they fit into all of this, even from an external standpoint, and how they can make a difference.
Oh, you're so kind. And I want to thank you for having this program, because this is what we need to have more. If we're going to engage in social media, it needs to be something that's uplifting and empowering us. We already know the story. Now we need to figure out our place in the story.
Yes, well said. So drdravonjames.com, we will have her website on leadersoftransformation.com in the show notes. So if you can actually type in Dravon, which is Dravon, there's a search field, and this episode will come up and all the links so that you can connect with her and find out more about what she's doing, even connect into her community, Everyday Peace. She's got a show. You can listen to her show as well. And so we encourage you to do that and find that peace in the midst of all this chaos. There is a peace that surpasses understanding. There is a peace that is so refreshing, and that will, there's also a peace that's clarifying, I believe, in this season. And so I would encourage you to take some time, as we've talked about here today, and to find that peace for yourself so that you can show up well for yourself, also show up well for your family, and show up well for your coworkers as you're telecommuting, and also for your community. Because the more that we can see, like Dr. Dravon was saying, is that we can have people who are experiencing self-love and peace, that energy goes out, and it will help to create that peace and calm within our communities. And so I really encourage you, every single one of you, as you listen to this and you watch this, is a leader of transformation. I remember what I said to one of my mentors once. I said, I've always wanted to be an example. And he said, oh, you're an example. This is the question, is what kind of example are you? We are all leaders of transformation. The question is, what kind of transformation are we leading to? And that ripple effect that we have. So we have the ability to create ripple effects of positivity, ripple effects of peace and of love and of joy, or we can create ripple effects of more fear and chaos and hoarding and control and all of those things. And so we get to choose that. And so I encourage you to choose wisely, because it affects not only you and your family, it affects everyone. And so with that, I encourage you to reach out to us. I'd love to hear your comments, love to hear how you're doing that in the world, how you're spreading more positive transformation in the world. And so you can find us through leadersoftransformation.com. You can, of course, find us on Facebook at Leaders of Transformation. We have our Facebook page, and we share not only these episodes, we share other stories. Like I'll reshare things that I hear of companies that are doing good and helping their their teams, and obviously now these virtual teams and people that are being downsized and so forth, how they're supporting them. New innovations and so forth. So we showcase those things and how people are creating transformation on that page. So I highly encourage that you follow us there. And if you have a story that you want to share, please post it. we'd love to hear it. So we appreciate you. We thank you. Stay well, stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.